All right, so now we move into chapter 14, and this is mortgages, and we're only covering 3 sections in this chapter. And so it's not much, and there's, I think, 3 problems in the check and sign, but I wanted to at least expose you to this and show you a few things that are pretty important and interesting when it comes to mortgages. For instance, how much interest you actually pay on a mortgage. So what we're going to do is the first section, I believe, is 14.1, and it's really just figuring out your payment and interest on a mortgage loan, and it's all done again also by tables. So it's the formula that you want to use the tables is right here. So in order to use the tables, you must first do this process. So number of thousands financed equals amount financed divided by 1,000. So keep that in mind. In this, looking at this first problem, they're basically just saying, what's the monthly payment and interest on a $150,000 mortgage at 5% interest for 30 years? So the first thing we want to do is take the 150 and we want to divide it by 1,000, and that comes out to 150. And that is so that we can utilize the table factor. The table factor is done in thousands, so we need to remove the thousands from the total when we multiply by the table factor. But in this case, it's super easy. 5% for 30 years. I don't have an example of this table, but if you go to page, let's see, sorry, not in 14. If you go to page number 454 or table 14.1, it gives you the chart you use. It's called the Amortization principal and interest per 1,000 financed table. So in this case, we have 30 years at 5%. We literally just go 5% on the left part over to 30 years on the right part, and it comes out to a table factor of 5.37. So when I do the math on that, it's going to give me my actual monthly payment on that particular loan. So it's going to be $805.50. Now, that's not the whole question. That's going to be what is the payment, but I'm also looking for the total interest. So this is the payment, both of principal and interest. We call it P&I, principal and interest payment. So every month I got to pay $805.50, and by doing so, in the end, I will have paid off my $150,000 loan with interest. So the question is, well, how much interest did I pay? Well, I need to take my $805.50 and I need to multiply by how many payments I made. So in this case, it's 30 years. So 30 times 12 is 360 payments. So I made 360 payments of $805.50. That comes out to a total of $289,980. So by the time I'm done paying for my $150,000 loan, I will have paid $289,980. So how much of that is interest? Well, I take my original principal and I subtract it from that, $289,980. And that's going to give me a total of $139,980. So what's that saying? That's saying that in the term of that loan, on a $150,000 loan, at 5% interest for the full 30 years, I will actually have paid $139,980 more than the value of the home. That sucks, huh? Like I paid almost double the price because I financed it. And that's why it's so good to get like a shorter term, like a 15-year loan. That's why it's a lot better to put more down on your house, because then there's less that you're financing. But if you just pay the minimum payment, the required payment every month for the entire life of your mortgage loan, you're going to pay, in this case, $139,980 more than the house was bought, that you bought the house for. Looking at the next problem, kind of the same thing. It's $85,500. That's a mistake. I'm going to divide that by 1,000, and that's going to be 85.5. And it's going to be a mortgage rate of 4.5 for 25 years. So I'm going to go to the same chart, the amortization chart. I'm going to go 25 years at 4%. It's going to be 5.28. And the total of that is going to be, said it right, 25 years at 4.5%. Sorry, my bad. That's 5.56. Erase that. if I do the math on that, it comes out to $475.38 per month, right? And if I'm doing it for 25 years, so 25 times 12 equals 300 payments. So 300 times 475.38, that will equal $142,614. So that means by me taking out an $85,500 mortgage for 25 years at 4.5%, I will ultimately have paid a total of $142,614. Now, of course, if I want to figure out how much of that was interest, is that 614? Yeah. It would be minus 85,500 because that's how much I originally bought the house for. Comes out to $57,114. So that's the total interest I paid on that loan. Again, that sucks, right? I paid almost another 100% or 50% of what I paid for it by that loan. Fortunately, 4.5% was a good interest rate. That is, today they got down to 2.5% about 2 years ago. Now they're up to almost 5%, 5.5% on mortgage loans. So they're very comparable to what we're working with right here in this problem. Let me go to one more. So that's working out your principal and interest, and then figuring out how much interest you paid. And I just worked both of those out for you. I'm not working the Sienna problem out on this particular one, but I am going to do another one of these that I think is important for me to work out for you guys because it is a little tricky. It's working out prepare an amortization schedule on a mortgage for, so this is one you're going to actually manually work out, and this is going to be a problem on there in the check-in assignment this week. So this is you're going to prepare an amortization schedule for the first 4 payments on a $125,000 mortgage at 6% interest for 15 years. So use table 14.1. Again, we're going to take the 125,000, divide it by 1,000. It's going to come up to 125, and we're going to multiply that by the table factor for 6% at 15 years. So 6%, 15 years, the table factor is 8.44. 8.44. And my total comes out to, when I multiply that together, $1,055 and I think it's 0 cents. So that's my monthly payment on a $125,000 mortgage for 6% for 15 years. But what they're asking me to do is to create an amortization schedule showing, how much interest I earn or how much interest is accumulated every month. So they want me to do this for the first 4 payments. So if that's the case, then the first thing I need to do is figure out how much interest am I going to accumulate for the first month. So I need to go back to my simple interest brain, and I'm going to do 125,000 because that's how much my mortgage is, times 0.06% times 1 divided by 12. That's going to give me the amount of interest that I accumulated in the course of 1 month. So it's going to be sorry about that. It's going to be $625 even. So that's interest for month 1. So I need to add that to my 125. So that's going to give me a new balance of, or actually I need to deduct that from, that's the interest. So, the interest, I need to deduct that from the payment that I'm making, sorry. So my payment comes in at $1,055, but I have to minus the 625 because that's the interest that's going to be taken out of that payment. And so that relieves me a remaining $430 that I can apply towards my principal amount that I owe. So I can take the 125,000 and minus 430. So now I have a new balance at the end of that of $124,570. All right, so that's month 1. Now I'm going to go into month 2. So I'm going to take my 124,570 and figure out how much interest did I accumulate in that 1 month. So I'm going to do that again. So 124,570 times 6% at 1 month comes out to $622.85 of interest. Notice it's a little less, right, than the 1 month before. That's because I have a little less principal because of my payment. So now I have to take that 622 and minus it from the 1055 of my payment I just made, my second payment. So my interest gets deducted, and what remains is what I can apply towards my principal, which is 432.15. So again, I can take my 124,570, that's my new balance, and I'm going to minus 432.15 because that's how much of my most recent payment gets applied to my principal. That gives me a new balance of 124,137.85. So that's now the end of month. This is interest month 2, and now here's my new balance going into month 3. So month 3, I take my 124,137.85. Multiply that by 6% by 112, and that's going to give me a new interest amount of $620.69. And again, I have to deduct that from my third payment I make. And that means I can apply towards my particular loan for month 3, $423.31. So I need to deduct that from my 124,137.85 minus 423.31. Now I have a new balance of 123,703.54. That is now my new balance. So this was my interest month 3. This was my interest month 2. All right, last one then. So 123,703.54 times 0.06 times 1/12 equals. So my next payment, I get another $618.52 of interest month 4, taken out of my payment. So $1,055 payment minus $618.52 equals a whopping $436.48. So that's how much left over of my $1,055 payment that I can apply towards principal. So I take my 123,703.54 and I minus the 436.48. And that's going to leave me a new balance of 123,267.06. So that's how much I owe after 4 payments. Went from 125 down to 123,267.06. And that's doing a partial amortization schedule for 4 payments. Does that make sense? You guys with me? All right, I have one more problem to work out on this chapter, and that's all you need to know. So those are the things you need to know. And then the last one is, sorry. It's going to be a mortgage. It's the mortgage one. It's probably the first one here. Yeah, here we go. All right, let me share that. So this one is when you have a home and you have equity in that home and whether or not you can borrow money against that equity in your home. So what we mean by equity is if your house is worth $100,000, but you only owe $50,000, that means you have $50,000 of equity that you can borrow against. And that's cool. You know, when we take out like second mortgages to do house repairs or to do home improvements, or we take out second mortgages to invest in a business or whatever else, our home, it could be a cash opportunity for us if we need it. The only problem is you have to pay it back, but you know, you could still use the equity in your house as cash for other purposes. And so the question here, or what we're going to do here is we're going to be calculating what a potential amount of credit is available to you from your home. And so that's what we're going to be looking at in this last problem. And there is a few formulas, like for instance, your appraised value of your house. If you take your appraised value and you multiply that by what the lender will allow you to borrow, will tell you how much you could potentially borrow against your house. And that would basically come back to the percent, whatever that ends up being, the result of that percent that you could borrow, appraised value, minus the first mortgage balance. I'll explain both of these in a second. All right, so the appraised value of your home is basically whatever the appraised value of the home is multiplied by the lender's percentage of borrowing. So if you look here, the appraised value of this house is $92,900, and the bank will lend up to 80% of the appraised value. So we would just multiply that by 0.80, and that would give us a total of $74,320. That's how much they would be willing to let us borrow on that home. Now, problem is I still owe something on the home, so they're not going to let me borrow anything beyond what I owe. So I can't borrow all $74,320 because I owe $32,440. So I need to take the $74,320 that they would allow me to borrow, and then I have to subtract what I actually owe still for the home. And that would give me a total of $41,880. That means that's how much I could borrow against my home. So the lender will let me borrow that. So this happens all the time. Like, for instance, I might want to buy another home. My wife and I are looking into this because we have equity in our home. We thought, let's pull out some equity and go buy a new home, second home, and maybe a home at the river or whatever else. So we could do that. We could take our 80% of our appraised value of the home, and then we deduct whatever we owe on it. Whatever remains, we can borrow that percentage. And so in this case, it would be $41,880 I could borrow. I could take that money out in cash in a line of credit, and I can use it to buy another home. I can use it to do home repairs. I can use it to pay off credit cards sometimes. They don't like that as much, but whatever you need, you have money in your home that you can take out. And that's the purpose of this kind of a loan. So it's really what we call a second loan or a line of credit on your existing home. So does that make sense to everybody? All right. I don't know if you're all still there, but that's all I have. Those are the kinds of questions that you're going to be asked on the check-in assignment, as well as on the quiz. I think, and honestly, this week's a little bit easier of a week, except for just remembering the difference between an annuity due and an ordinary annuity that we were talking about